Oh my god! If you saw the last video, then you already know what we're looking at. If you haven't, let me paraphrase. The EFI system does not like to work with anything that makes less than 6 inches of vacuum at idle. Our setup was making 3.8 to 4.2, around 4 inches of vacuum at idle, so it was super unhappy. And what I think was happening was it was making such low vacuum that at idle the map sensor was reading 80 kPa, which is way too much. So I think that was making the ECU think that it was under load, so it put a bunch of fuel in there. So it would put a bunch of fuel in there, and then it would read the O2 sensors saying that it's super rich, and it'd be like, the fuck's going on? So it was just super unhappy. We tried a bunch of stuff off camera to make it work. It just wasn't cooperating. We probably could have rigged up some sort of vacuum pump to put vacuum in the manifold, but that seems like it would start messing with other things. And like a vacuum booster, like a vacuum canister that people use for brakes, I don't think that would affect anything except the booster itself. I think that would, I don't know. I don't think there was any like reasonable setup that would have really made that work easily and quickly. So for now, we're just gonna shelf all that. I'm already pulling the wiring harness out of it. I'm just gonna put it back in the box over there. And I'll probably use it on something in the future that has a cam that makes more vacuum at idle, something that's more of a street driver. Now I do believe that this Summit EFI system is based off of Phytech, just their handheld controllers, super similar to the Phytech one. The injectors in it say Phytech right on them, so I'm pretty sure that that's just what it is. The people at Phytech say that the only system they have that you can hook your laptop up to and like manually program things, or you know what I'm trying to say, is their power adder system, and every other one you just have to use the handheld controller. So that really wasn't an option with this, and I did try, and it wasn't working. So since the whole point of this truck is to just have fun and beat on and not just sit in the garage yelling at each other and getting pissed off about things, we decided we'll just put a carb back on it and be able to actually use the truck. And again, if you saw the last video, you'll know that we've already put the truck to a little use. We took it down the road to Mexico, did a little painting, and the things, it's already much happier. Before, with the old EFI system, we could only foot brake the converter to about 1400 RPMs. Now we can get pretty close to 2000 RPM, which will obviously let us 60 foot a little bit better. The converter is supposed to be a 3000 stall, and I think if we could get more brake pressure, it probably would foot brake to like, I don't know, 2500 pretty easily. But this truck has really, really little braking pressure, so I think that's kind of why this truck doesn't want to get on the converter, because it's basically like, if you don't have your foot on the brakes and you have, let's say, a 4000 stall converter, if you start to give it throttle, it'll start to creep ahead. And that's kind of what's happening. Now this carb is a little too small. We should have like a 750 on it, somewhere in that range. But it is much happier. It doesn't want to quite idle right. I think that the issue is it's just wanting so much air that we have to turn the idle screw in so much that it puts the throttle past the idle circuit. So we might, if we want to work with this one, if we don't want to get a bigger carburetor, we might have to drill some holes in the butterflies. That's kind of what everybody's recommending for this situation and what they've done in the past. So it's something we might look into. Again, that's just if we want to keep running this.
Maybe they're just seeing if we're stupid enough to drill holes in it.
Things running a lot better than it has been. So what we want to do is just kind of fix what we can right now, and then try, assuming the weather cooperates, because it might not, take it to the track this Saturday, run hopefully both trucks again. And now that this one should leave out of the hole, get a 60 foot at least in the twos, and then Goldie Hawn is now on all 8 cylinders. So hopefully both trucks will run quite a bit better than they did last time. But I'm going to finish ripping out this wiring. I have to redo the fuel pump wire since that's not going to be through the harness anymore. And I think there was something else that I can't remember right now. Anyway, I'm going to get back to that real quick and then we'll pick it up in a little bit. Alright, the wiring is 99% all cleaned up. I basically just eliminated all the unnecessary crap and rerouted them so that they weren't going over the engine, stuff like that, and just, for the most part, not getting stretched into free space like this. Like I said, 99% cleaned up. This, it would be so unnecessary to like route it down to the frame rail and then up the firewall and back over, so I'll just leave that. I do still need to get like the sheathing to go over the stuff up there by the cowl. And figure out a way to hold it up in the center there because it's kind of hanging down a little bit. But for the most part, the wiring's good. Eliminated all the EFI wiring. Just have to get the computer out of there. And then the only things left that I have to do are plug in the fuel pump wire and plug in the distributor, which I just, honestly, I didn't because I forgot which way those went. So I'm gonna have to look into that real quick. And then once I get that done, the truck is completely carbureted again. There will be, for the most part, I think no computers on the truck. Yeah, I believe that we got rid of all of them once I, like I said, get that one off of there. And since we're going carbureted, we don't need this fuel system anymore. So I'll probably take that out and shelf it probably after we go to the track. I don't want to tear into that too much right now, but I did talk to a buddy, James, that I worked with at Line to Line Coatings, and he knows a guy with a, I think he said about a 12 or 15 gallon Harwood fuel cell, and he only wants 50 bucks for it, so I'm going to pick that up from him probably sometime this weekend, and we will drop this tank out of there, probably just put the fuel cell in the bed right in the center there, maybe offset it a little bit, I don't know. And then either get one of those little clicky-clack inline fuel pumps or just get one of the ones that goes right on the block, a traditional carbureted fuel pump, and just run a line right up to it. And then another benefit of doing that is right now we just have open headers that stop about halfway through the door, and we don't have to worry about any like backfire flames or anything like that going onto the fuel tank, because that is a little bit of a concern we've had for a while now. So that's another benefit of getting the fuel cell and putting that in the bed of the truck. But aside from that, I think we got the oil leak under control. We do believe that it is the rear main seal. I don't remember if I addressed this in the last video, but we do believe it's the rear main seal. And I think what happened is when we had the motor out and we were putting it together the first time, we put new bearings and seals and everything in it. But I think I forgot to clock the rear main seal. They say you're supposed to clock it a little bit so that the top of the seal isn't flush with the block and the mating surfaces. I think I forgot to do that, so I think that's why it's leaking, because it is a brand new seal. But we think we have that contained, so we should be able to make some passes in the truck this weekend. We're going to try to take Jack Black and Goldie Hawn to the track. I'm very curious how the truck's going to do with this carburetor. I think it's not going to have quite as much top end. It's going to be kind of like a restrictor plate for it. That's what I think. Obviously, I don't know. You can read 20 different things online, but the truck is obviously doing a whole lot better. You saw in the last video, it wanted to do nothing but boogie out of the hole. I mean, that was unprepped street, of course, but still, it's way, way better than it was. So I think it goes without saying that I'm pretty excited. I cannot wait for tomorrow to go to the track. And I'm pretty confident that the truck should be able to break into like low 14s, maybe high 13s with this setup. Fingers crossed. We'll see what he thinks. What kind of time do you think the truck has in it now with its current setup?
What, at the track?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I bet this fucker's got a good chance on hitting the 12s. If it launches as good as it does and runs as strong as it wants to, but I'm hoping to hit mid to high 13s.
I think it might, I really think high 13s right now, but we will see. I wouldn't be mad if it was faster. Yeah, the only things left to do are plug the distributor back in and plug the fuel pump in. I marked where the distributor is. He's gonna plug the wires back in and set it where he thinks it was, and then we're gonna see how close he is.
Well, we'll know real quickly. Oh, I found this about a 12-gallon fuel cell for $50.
All right, you measure it.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
You know what? That is pretty fucking close. I would say it's close enough. I think it's
Now do I have the wires on right?
like half a degree advanced, but I don't think that's enough to make much of a difference. Yeah, you do.
That was good enough for me.
Yep.